Mind over matter, the space where resilience meets transformation. Today's guest, Victor Vizcaino, is more than a marathoner. He's a performance coach, triathlete, and a living blueprint for what's possible when we train our body and mind as one. From running 60 plus marathons to coaching busy adults towards their best health, Victor's message is simple but powerful. Endurance sport isn't just about distance, it's about depth. Let's dive into how long distance running reshapes every system of your life. Welcome to the show, Victor. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, and it's my honor to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for today.
Mhm. So, Victor, what first revealed to you that endurance sports weren't just physical but transformative on every level?
Yes, absolutely. My own story is evidence of that because when I first um, even thought about running a marathon, it was my sister who asked me if I wanted to join her in running a marathon. And at the time, I was heavy into drinking at least every weekend. My health was going down. I was heavier. Yeah, I need a lot of changes in my life that I felt it. But at the time, I just wanted to prove to my sister that I could run a marathon. So I registered, and it was at the time the LA Marathon. And through the workouts of doing a marathon and the training, I changed a lot of areas of my life. My health got better. My mindset was getting better. Just at the end of 6 months of training, I was a total different person, and not just in physical but mental. So then I was hooked into running marathons, and the next thing is I wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, and that was another challenge. But each time that I would register for another marathon, I noticed that I kept making different improvements, both in mindset and optimism and my health. Everything seemed to be improving. At the time, I was working as a UPS driver. And when I retired, I decided to go full time into doing coaching marathoners and coaching triathletes. And that's what I do now. And I am excited to offer the same kind of transformation that I went through, what it did for me, to others, and even at a different, at a whole higher level now, because it's so much easier now to connect with other people, to use all of the teachings, whether it be through audio, you know, like even people listening to this podcast wasn't available before when I started running, uh, like 20 years ago. And now they have so much more technology available that kind of enhances the opportunity of that kind of growth.
That's amazing. And was there a specific race or training cycle that rewired you from the inside out?
Um, Definitely the trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon was significantly changed me because I had to push that envelope to get faster and make those improvements, and learning a lot in the process of doing that. Mm, I had to really change because it took me a long time. I thought I could qualify in the next marathon, and I actually ended up doing 17 marathons before I qualified. So through those trainings, I started to really make a lot of mental changes, a lot of um, that it wasn't just about trying to work hard. You have to really incorporate your mindset, your spirituality, and your posture being more efficient. So yeah, I think I learned a great deal through that kind of training just because it wasn't what I thought it was. I wasn't just putting more miles or working harder or anything, that I really had to incorporate a holistic approach to my training. Uh, and yeah, I use a lot of those things that I learned in how I coach my athletes at the moment.
And that moment of awakening through movement speak to something primal. We run and we remember who we are.
Yes, I think that we were born to run, and um, we evolved from people who used to run a lot to catch their prey. Basically, we were hunters, and the way we would survive was to either run away from predators or run towards our food to capture our food. And I think that's how we're able to outrun almost every animal in the planet when it comes to endurance, because we had to use that for many, many, many years of evolution that went to that adaptation in our on our bodies and our minds for that kind of. And I think that's what I think that when we run marathons or any kind of endurance sports, that we're starting to awaken that part of the memory that remembers that we can do so much more than we think we can do. We can outrun our prey. We can. Um, I've read stories where hunters would try to catch, for example, deer and go days and days and days um, outrunning them until the prey got tired and they were able to capture them. So yeah, I hope that answers the question as far as the evolution of running and remembering who we are.
Absolutely. And you talk about running as a tool to optimize cardiovascular, metabolic, and cognitive systems. Can you break down how these shifts actually occur?
I don't get too much into the scientific part, but I do, from experience, notice that our creativity gets so much better when I run. And I think that if I try to explain it scientifically and all the chemicals that happen and all the neural connections in our brain when we have all these chemicals happening and all the reactions that cause the endorphins to go in. But the bottom line is that everything seems to function at a higher level of efficiency, so that when we're running, and I usually will put like a problem or something that I want to solve, and then just kind of tell myself, you know what, I'm going to go on a run and I'm going to think about this problem and a bunch of the solutions that I 90% of the time I will come up with a solution to what I'm thinking about in a creative way, in a kind of in a surprising way, like, wow, I didn't think I was going to solve that problem, but I did. And a lot of times, is even in my writing, whether it's I'm trying to write a speech or trying to do something specific, I go for a run and I'll usually come up with something really creative because of what happens in the brain and the body and everything that works in conjunction. And yeah, I really, when I have a client, I usually say, hey, just take your problems or practice some kind of form of running meditation, and you'll experience a great creativity.
Totally. And is it possible to access these benefits without becoming a full on marathoner?
I absolutely think you can. This has been my way of doing it. But from when I hear other people doing similar things or other forms of movement, whether it's dancing, um, I used to do workouts for boxing. I did amateur boxing, and I remember experiencing something similar, not as much because the workouts weren't as long, but I definitely had experienced it more with the endurance. I think because also I'm out there sometimes 3, 4 hours running. But yeah, in answer to your question, I don't think that you need to do a marathon to do that. A lot of people experience these same things with other forms of exercise, movement, meditation. But if you can combine them with some kind of movement and mental exercises, I think that you have a better chance of doing that.
And it's reassuring that even consistent small steps still activate massive change beneath the surface.
Yes, absolutely. Um, and I'm starting to get into a lot more of those. I do a lot of cross training with swimming and biking, but I would also like to incorporate a lot of like the martial arts part of thing where they do a lot of slow moment or I forget the names, but I know I see them on YouTube. I see them where they're making small movements, whether it's yoga or other types of exercises, and you can tell that they're in a some form of trance while they're doing that. And as I get older, I am shifting or pivoting towards doing a lot more of those exercises that are either less difficult to do or they're just less straining on the body, so you're less likely to get injured. Mm. And if I can do a combination of those, then I'll probably reduce the amount of running that I do and switch into more of those type of movements, but definitely getting all of those benefits at the same time.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And mindset plays a huge role in endurance. How do you help your clients stay mentally sharp during training and racing?
Um, just having, really listening to what's going in their mind and specifically. So I like to have sessions with my clients where I meet at least once a week and kind of get to know how they are thinking and then provide a lot of the mindset that's going to help them in a specific form with the way they think, the things that are in their minds. And yes, having that optimistic of trusting the process and say, as I get more experience, I can really relate to a lot of the things that they're going through and some of their worries. And then just know that, hey, we are going to get there. And it's going to take just consistent small steps to get to the next level and then to the next level, to the next milestone. And yeah, usually that works really well because they can see their improvements. They start seeing their improvements. I start talking to them of how they should be feeling each step of the way. And they give me feedback on how much stronger they're feeling, or if they incorporate, for example, smaller races towards their big race. So if they're training for a marathon and they decide they want to incorporate a 10K race or a half marathon in between, then now they have those confident boosters when they finish that race. Like, okay, yeah, just like you did the 10K race, we're going to work up to the half marathon. And then they finish the half marathon. Well, that's exactly how it's going to happen for your full marathon. It's just going to be a little progression and they become very strong mindset and having those beliefs, those sayings that they tell themselves about themselves and beliefs and everything comes into play.
Mm-hmm, 100%. And what do you tell someone who hits the classic wall mid race or mid journey in life?
Oh, yeah, that's a time that if you need to pause for a little bit, but know that it's just there that you can overcome it. And the walls, like you said, there's sometimes metaphorically in life that you hit a certain thing, but when you see other people overcome them, or I myself can give examples of where I hit those walls and know that they're temporary and they're breakable, that you can break through the wall. And it's definitely not a place to stop. It's just if you have to pause, you pause and reassess everything and continue forward with a lot of the tools that are presented with you, a lot of the tools that we learn from either all of our experiences and other people's experiences, combine those and give you the tools necessary to overcome those walls, and a lot of times even prevent the wall from actually showing up if you train exactly for it and where it usually shows up, it'll be easy to either overcome it or go right through it.
Hmm. And that shift from I can't to I'm still going is the heartbeat of endurance and of growth itself.
Yes, absolutely. That still, you still keep moving and the heart's still beating. You're just gonna have it beat a little bit healthier, a little bit stronger, as you keep on moving and realizing, yes, this is the heart of endurance. It's the uh, combining all the holistic parts of the mental, the spiritual, the physical. And when we combine everything a little in a proportionate way, that makes it healthy. You're less likely to get hurt. You're going to have it easier to overcome obstacles, and you're going to be a lot stronger. Your heart's going to be beat a lot stronger, and that optimism of moving forward just becomes so much easier and better, and you're able to enjoy the things that you do because everything is running more optimal and more efficient. You are yeah, the experience of joy in your life is going to be so much more.
Definitely. And you're writing a book on marathon training as spiritual growth. Can you give us a glimpse into that connection?
I'm very in the early stages of that, but I really want to um, focus a lot of the books of how I was able to train for the endurance that I have trained, but also little technical practical ways to improve. One of the things that I like to do that are specific to myself is counting my cadence when I run. When I first qualified for the Boston Marathon, I counted my cadence the whole way from the beginning to the end. And counting your cadence just meaning counting your steps, your strides. And I do that practice, and it gives me into that meditative state that I was talking about. I feel like I'm on a trance, and I run extremely efficient and very, very focused. I'm able to focus on my posture, on everything as I'm counting. So that's going to be a lot of part of that book of using that technique to become more efficient. And of course, a lot of other areas that I really believe that make the difference. And a lot of them is posture, a lot of the techniques, a lot of the ways to get creative. I want to be part of the book too, ways to get creative when you're running. And yeah, I'm excited for that.
Hmm. That's such a refreshing take. The soul doesn't always speak in stillness. Sometimes it shouts through sweat.
Yes. And so I think that's first time I heard it put that way, but it's very interesting. And then, yeah, I think you're right. I think that when that the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, that sometimes it shouts through your sweat, is when I get a certain idea when I'm running, I'm sweating, and this idea comes to my mind that I'm excited. I can't wait to get home and write it down so that I can put it into practice. Because a lot of times, if I don't write it down, then a day later, it doesn't sound like a great idea. But while I'm running and while I'm excited, it is shouting to me, "Hey, you got to try this new idea. Um, let's do it." So that's lately when I come up with those ideas and shouting, I make sure that I write it down and that I take the first steps towards seeing that through. Mhm.
That's amazing. And what's one myth about endurance sport that keeps people stuck, and how do you help them overcome it?
I think the one of the probably the most common is experiencing an injury, whether it be shin splints or maybe knee pains, where they start to hurt and they just completely stop and say, "Okay, I can't go on with a pain in my knee. It's gonna get worse," so they stop training. But when they sign up with my training plan, we kind of go through these things even before they start to do the training as to what are they going to do if the knee starts to hurt or if they get an injury, that there are other options that they have to continue training. For example, with a lot of the pains in the knees or the IT band injuries, a lot of times if they have access to a pool, we'll do running in the pools, running in the water. Um, and that's the other reason why I like triathlons too, because it gives you options to do something else. If, for example, if running becomes a problem, that we maybe still be able to do the swimming and biking to keep up the fitness until we heal from that injury. So we talk about that before we even start to train, as like, what are the things that we're going to be able to do while we heal from an injury. The other part is just maybe become discouraged, a lot of fear that I don't want to be the last one, or I don't feel like I'm making improvements, and showing them that, yay, the improvements sometimes are not evident right away, that every day we get faster, but you're accumulating endurance and it'll show up. Just trust the process. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Mhm.
Those are ways that we do overcome some of those obstacles.
That perspective is game changing because it's not about age, it's about activation.
Yes. Yeah. I have clients who start running in their 60s and they feel so much better when they started doing and having a purpose, like running marathons. I do the 50 states, mainly marathons, where people are trying to do in the United States, they're trying to do all of 50 states. And that's where I think I've seen the most diversity of people doing these either full marathons or half marathons and other distances. But they found their community, they found their purpose, they have a reason why they're decided to start to moving. Either the doctor told them, hey, if you don't start moving, you're going to have all these consequences. So they made it a lifestyle, and they seem so much happier and so much fulfilled now that they're incorporating that kind of movement into their life.
That's amazing. So, Victor Vizcaino just showed us that endurance is more than sport. It's a lifestyle of intention, resilience, and renewal. Whether you're chasing a finish line or your best self, remember, progress is a rhythm, not a race. Lace up, breathe deep, and keep moving because your best life isn't behind you, it's on the next